a cup of coffee, then I'll go.
Good morning, welcome back to another coffee time. As always, please let me know that you can hear me, can you see me, can you feel me. Coffee time comes to you every Sunday, 11 a.m. Colombian time, and I talk about various topics that come to my mind. Today is going to be protest edition. It seems that a lot of people are freaked out over protests that are going on in different countries, and they're seeing Colombia as being part of that. So I'm going to address that today at some depth, some length, a little, but not. I won't go too crazy. I'm going to do that towards the end, and then, as always, you can ask your questions. 4 question marks preceding the question, please. I've got a bunch of quick topics that I'm going to address with, some media to go with it. We'll see how that goes. To those who ask, because I bring it up every week, I'm listening to music, particularly just before this starts. And, one time it was the Beatles, and one time it was the Stones, and then last week it was Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. It got me thinking about Woodstock. This past week was Peter Frampton. I've always liked Peter Frampton, but I've never gone deep into his music, and it was very interesting to do that. Much better artist than I actually had thought he was. Thank you for the contribution. I really appreciate that. Which brings to mind, I've got 2 new Patreon subscribers this week. To those, I want to thank you very much. And as always, the GoFundMe contributors, I definitely appreciate that. And I'm getting some Google Pay contributions, and of course I very much appreciate that. So to those contributors, thank you. You're what keeps this channel going. I just had to, if you watched yesterday's video I put out, there was yet more things that I had to get for my Osmo camera. I believe that I'm finally at the end of it. So Amazon got another $115 out of me. But the nice thing was, if you didn't catch that video, is my import tax amounted to a total of, are you ready? Drum roll. 96 cents. Yeah, Amazon's pretty sweet when you can actually use it. So, I'm going to start off, because I know this audience is mostly guys. I just want to point out, Armenia is very special to me, as you know. I'm saying it all the time. But it's also special in another way. Let me introduce to you the new Miss Colombia for 2019 from Armenia. Yeah, I swear that I dated this girl a few months back. Or somebody that looked exactly like this girl. Some of you may know who I'm talking about. Some of you may not. I don't know, but Armenia is no shortage of talent for things like Miss Colombia, that's for sure. So, okay, enough of that. It's never enough. All right, I want to tell you about a restaurant that I like to go to, just to show you some things I did this week. Yes, I was sick. I was out of commission for about 3 days, and today's the first day I'm actually feeling pretty much normal. So this would be the 4th day. Just a fever and general achiness and just blah. And, but one day I had to go out, and the bills come every month anyway. So I had to go out, and I stopped for lunch. I just was too tired to cook. So this was a place. Oh, I think it's going to hear.
This is the small.
I think there's sound to this.
Chuleta. It's a pork chop. It comes with coleslaw. And this is chicken salad. It's at one of my favorite restaurants, Todo Chuleta.
So I don't know if you heard the sound for that. Hopefully you did. But I love that place. I've featured it in a couple videos in the past. It's not far from my house. It's traditional Condio food. Every region has its own particular take on food, and sometimes a very unique food. And this place has something called sadao, which wasn't featured in that video, but I really love it, and it's in particular a Condio dish. I just have it every single time. That this last time I decided to try something different. So, also comes up a lot is questions about dentists. Now, if you're going to be down here, you might want to take a screenshot or write down the phone number that's going to show up on this. But this guy is located about 2 blocks from my apartment. He's in the north part of Armenia. Let me run that again. He's considered to be one of the, if not, well, actually what I'm told is he is the best dentist in all of Colombia. Now, I'm told that by one person after another person after another person. When I ask about dentists, his name is always coming up. And when I say, where's, a good dentist, do you have to go to Medellin? Why would you do that when the best one in Colombia is here in Armenia? So something to look into, I guess. The prices, from what I understand, are somewhat reasonable, but because I haven't needed anything, I didn't go in and quiz them on it. Okay, glad the sound came through. I wasn't sure. All right, so we're getting close to Christmas, and they actually started selling Christmas things over a month ago, and they're faster on it here than they are even in the United States. You hear Christmas music all over the place, and here I look out my window at night and I see tons of Christmas trees and Christmas lights, and it's just a big thing here. So I was walking on that same day, and I saw that they're already prepping. They've got the Christmas sign.
You can see they're already setting up the Park
for
of Life.
The Park of Life.
The lights for Christmas.
Parque de la
like
Vida,
the video I did about
house,
the lights last
which
year.
If you look back one year from Christmas, you'll see I did a Christmas video walking through. It was kind of like a winter
Walked by a
wonderland.
house
It
the
was
other day,
absolutely gorgeous.
and it looked like it was a decoration explosion.
Kind of
the
a
front door
shirt tail
open.
relative visiting. And
Yeah,
I
they
took her
start
down
Christmas
through
very
there
early.
And did a video for her mother. As a Christmas present for her to her mother, and pretty stunning. And on that same walk, I went to Olympica to grab a few things because it's on my way home. I live 1 block from it, the supermarket, and I went in and there was just this mob of people, and they were having a Christmas party for customers. And everybody was dressed up in little Santa outfits. There was a ton of food. There was a big buffet. But what was really surprising, and I didn't get the video of it, I was feeling pretty down, and I got this standing in line. But there were 2 open bars. Where you see right here, it would have been on the right of that. There were 2 open bars, and there were just, whiskey and vodka and aguardiente and these different hard liquors, and they were serving them in these jumbo-sized shot glasses, and you saw a lot of rosy cheeks standing around there, and they about tackled me to, get me to have one, and I just, no thanks, no, I'm not that much of a drinker, but it was very interesting. Everybody was, cheerful and mowing down on all these different foods. And it wasn't have a drink, because I saw, just as I was trying to pick out some oranges, there was a guy who had 3 drinks while I was standing there looking at oranges. So, protest. Now I'm going to tell you about the night, last night, 2 nights ago, where it affected me personally, sort of tongue-in-cheek. But then there's going to be a slight pause with something, and then I'm going to get to the actual topics of protest. So this is not the topic of protest in general. But here in Armenia, there's an apartment building next to me. And there was a guy that was sitting on his balcony with his wife or girlfriend. And they were banging on a pot. You imagine taking just a tin pot and a wooden spoon, clank, 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 clank. And they were both doing it, so I guess, harmony. But they did it for 2 hours. It was just really annoying. Clank, 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 clank. There was no marching here. It's just an apartment building, and they just decided to, I don't know what the deal was. So what happened was the people that live here, I thought they showed an extreme amount of patience because they didn't do anything for a couple hours. But after a couple hours of that, I think they were ready to kill. And a mob came out. Well, it's just, other people living there. But there was, probably, I'm guessing 8 or 9 people. And they gathered up under his balcony, which is on the 2nd or 3rd floor below me and across from me. Here, wait a minute. Let me see if I can show you the culprit. Okay, right over there. Well, that way. 3rd balcony. Okay. All right. So, anyway, this group of people are out there, and they started yelling at him to knock it off, and he gave him the finger. It was not real smart with a group of, 8 or 9 people. And they just yelled at him some more and yelled at him some more. And you could see they were really getting upset. You don't see anger here a lot, but they were pissed off. And the guy kept banging, banging, banging. So somebody walked over to a little grass there, and he picked up this rock that was not a baseball, I would say the size of a softball. It was a good sized rock. And he flung the thing up there, and it went through, there's small windows, and it went through his small window. And, so he stands up cursing, but he's still banging on that pot. And so somebody else took another rock and threw it and hit the balcony and ricocheted off the balcony, hit him in the chest. He's probably got a little bruise from it, but they stopped banging the pot, and his wife or girlfriend, she bolted inside. And then a few minutes later, somebody had already called the police because just moments later, a motorcycle comes in with a couple cops on it and lights going. I'm watching this and not even thinking, get my phone, videotape this thing or video it, because the part that I just described was really the very interesting part. But I didn't. And so I got video after the cops were there and the light was turned off and the cops were talking to everybody. So just a short video showing it. And it's dark and you really can't see anything, but what the hell. So this is it. The people that were throwing the rocks, the one cop talked to him and then he just told him to go home. And then both cops went upstairs, and that was the end of the protest. As a matter of fact, I haven't seen them stick their head out since. It's justice here is interesting. In the United States, the rock would be where the attention is, and here, the guy who caused the annoyance is where the attention went, and he's the guy who got in trouble. And the people who threw the rock, it was like, well, you were justified and you didn't really hurt anybody, and if the guy's window broke, well, he pretty much was asking for it. I don't know. I don't really have a problem with that. It seemed kind of fair, but after the protest, there was, do I have it? No, I don't have it. Oh yeah, I do have it. After the protest, there was a birthday party. The birthday party started that protest incident. The birthday party started at 10 p.m. and it ended at 4 a.m. And I know that because I was awake for it. It was loud. Not that far from me, over in the trees on the left here, if you oriented yourself with all the pictures and videos I've shown you of this area, that treed area right there, in there is a pavilion for picnics, parties, and birthday parties apparently. And it started off singing happy birthday to happy birthday to you in English. It's kind of traditional here actually. So I figured, well, that'll be the end of that. Well, it wasn't the end of that. The music just kept getting louder and louder, and everybody was singing along with the music. There was quite a mob of people there. For the first time in a year, I actually closed the glass door on my balcony. I've had it open for a year, but I closed it because it's like, oh my God, this was about 1:30 in the morning. It was just still going strong. They party hard here. And then 3 o'clock, I took a video which I can't show you because I had it in the video yesterday, a 15-second clip of it, and they blocked my video for having stolen copyright, which is crazy because there was all these people singing. You couldn't even hear the bass music, but that's how it works. So, I mean, that's just YouTube. But I've got a different one here, and I think it'll be okay. Might give you a sense of it. I don't remember what it sounds like, what it is, but okay. Hopefully you heard something there, and hopefully it doesn't block this video. I have to go back and substitute it with something else. It's a royal pain. So anyway, that ended at 4 a.m. And I just didn't sleep. Partly probably because I've been sick and sleeping more than normal, and so I probably had some sleep build up in me. Normally I get 3-4 hours sleep, and when I was sick I was catching like 8 hours. I think one day I got 9 hours sleep, part of it in the afternoon. So I probably had enough sleep, but it was pretty annoying. And Justin, who moved in on the 3rd floor, he thought he heard gunfire. He thought it was all protest. He didn't know that it was just party and celebration. So let me get to the protest, and I will attempt to not pontificate a lot. I'm not going to be detail oriented because this could go on forever. These things are so complicated. But the questions I'm getting are, is South America erupting? Is it like this one thing? And now that it's happened in Colombia, does that mean it's unsafe in Colombia? Am I in danger? Am I okay? And so that's pretty much what I want to address. First of all, I understand that when you're viewing things from afar, that you're not going to get the whole picture. They're not all the same, and I want to remind you to give it perspective. And most of my viewers, by far, are in the United States. So I bring up the United States as comparisons a lot, simply so that you can put things in a frame of reference. Think about when they had protests in Los Angeles, and it looked like the whole world was on fire. I'm going to ask you, was it unsafe to go to, I don't know, Atlanta, Georgia, or pick a place, Myrtle Beach? No, because it was going on there. And if they have a protest in Myrtle Beach, is it going to be the same type of protest like when they had them in Baltimore? And the answer is no, because things are a little more violent in Baltimore. So when you're looking at these countries, you want to consider that. It's not like, is Colombia erupting? What do you mean Colombia? I mean, each area is different, and so I'll get to that. But first, Bolivia. You see these as all the same, but they're not. In Bolivia, there's a fundamental uprising because of years of corruption and broken promises. It's entirely political, and it's been brewing for a very long time because you had a president who, kind of fudges elections and just keeps himself in power, and he ran away to Mexico, but it's still going on because people. It was pent up for such a long time. So that's that. In Ecuador, what you had was an uprising that was stoked. There were people behind the uprising. And you saw these two indigenous leaders pop up and show up on the press, and they were involved in everything all of a sudden. There was kind of a political power grab that was going on there. It was all under the guise of they were going to stop the subsidies for gasoline, so there was that topic, but there was something broader. And the fact that the judicial building in Quito was the one and only building burnt down, and that building housed all these documents showing corruption of the previous administration, cases they're working on. That's not really a coincidence. So there was an underlying factor there. There is a common thread between all of these, and I will get to it. In Colombia, what's going on here was actually scheduled and planned. People went to the government and said, we're going to do such and such. The government prepared for it, so they had military and police on hand. It wasn't a spontaneous, surprising uprising. In Colombia, it was about a whole range of things. And you can look it up and see, but I'll hit some of the highlights. It was complaints about the potential government budget cuts. They're talking about some pensions that might be cut. And of course, you can see people are going to be upset about that. Of course, it's kind of like the visa thing. I mean, it hasn't happened, but there's discussions because they're trying to balance a budget, and they don't, they're not believers in running in deficit, so they're looking at everything. University funding, that comes up all the time. There's 2 or 3 times a year, I swear, the universities will shut down and protest because they want more money. And then they get a little more money and they're okay for a while, and then a few months later they're protesting again. And they shut down. There's students that go many times through the year not getting classes because of these things. So it's the students that really get kind of screwed over on this, but that's just the way it is. It's like it goes back for a long time. And then you've got protests against. There was a group of people. I think it was 9 people that were killed by the government, and they were in uniform. They were FARC, and that battle is still kind of going on under the surface, but there's a conspiracy that's built up around it, and because some of them were children, but the FARC recruits children. They've done that forever, and they were in uniform, and people are saying, no, this was staged by the government, and so the government's just this atrocious, war criminal, type of thing. And so you have that conspiracy going on, and a lot of people just don't know what to believe on it. But here's the underlying thread that runs throughout pretty much all protests these days. including in the United States. I mean, think back to Occupy Wall Street, or even more recent protests with speakers at campuses, and you've got groups like Antifa, which a misnomer if you ever heard it. And I warn you right now, I'm going to get a little political, not for the sake of being political, but there's a couple things that I need to point out. And, we need to understand something. And that's about the media. The media in the world, from so if I get this right, I may be off a little bit, but because I haven't looked at this in a while, but I believe that there's 6 owners of pretty much all the media in the world, and I think 5 of the 6 are socialists. So when you watch Telemundo, for example, it's got a socialist owner, so when you watch articles, they always have that bent. But what you'll see, and you'll see this in the United States, and this is the only place I'm going to, kind of get political. Some of you that are anti-Trump see stories that come out of the media as gospel, and, we'll just use one, Trump is a racist. Before he ran for president, he wasn't a racist. Everybody liked him. All these people hate him now. I mean, he got awards for, the things that he did for Black and Latino community, his employees. It's never been an issue. He's actually always been seen on the forefront. He gave the first contracting manager job to a woman, 20-some years ago, got a lot of heat from other people. So he never had a history of that until he became president. Then all of a sudden, he's racist. And it all began when he gave his speech coming down the escalator, and he talked about, the rapists and murderers coming across the border. If you watch the speech in context, if you watch the whole thing, he was talking about criminals, but the news picked it up as he was talking about all people coming across the border. Therefore, he hates brown people, he hates Mexicans, and so, they just kind of, they turned it on its head. Now, whether you believe that or don't believe, it doesn't matter. But what I'm saying is that the media is complicit in a lot of things because they've got vested interest. And you see the same things happening in other countries. For example, and the reason I just brought that one up, is here in Colombia, Jukka, who is, let's say, a traditional conservative, and I'm not saying as an angel, I'm not speaking to him, personally. What I'm saying is that the media constantly portrays pictures of a picture of him being corrupt, portrays a picture of him, he doesn't care. He doesn't care about old people. He doesn't care about children. He doesn't care about the indigenous population. He's prejudiced and he's biased and all of these hateful things. Every day a constant drumbeat about it. In the universities, you get the same thing. I know several university students, we've talked about this, and in the classes, they'll talk about socialism as, being for the people and good and just, and people that are conservative, like Jukka, are all evil and corrupt, and they're only in it for the money, like that. So my point is, no matter what side of the fence you're on, you have to recognize that there's heavy one-sided propaganda, and it's not just in the United States, it's throughout the world. This is a worldwide movement, and if you look at communism/socialism going back to its beginnings, they're operating on the blueprint from over 100 years ago. I mean, this is part of how it's designed. So it's no surprise when you read, the foundation of it. But back when Soviet Union, he pounded his shoe and he said, "We will bury you." There was a statement in there about basically talking about how, if not this generation, the next generation, because that's how that plan operates. And that plan didn't go away with the fall of the Soviet Union. It was far beyond the Soviet Union. The theme song Internationale, it's a worldwide movement that has never been extinguished or put out. And the issue with democracies or republics is they allow those people to have a voice, except they've gotten more and more power, and now the propaganda comes into play. So you have people come out of the universities in the United States, here in Colombia is no different, where they automatically think capitalism is the evil of the world and socialism is the answer. And these protests that go on always have that element in them, whether they instigate it entirely in the beginning or whether they just latch on and go for the ride and use that as a platform. It really depends on the situation and where you're talking about. But that's definitely what goes on. You can see it in the crowds. Like in the U.S., you see them wave the hammer and sickle flag, and in one of the protests, I was looking at video in Cali. They got a yellow flag of Che Guevara, waving that, the hero of the socialist movement. What a capitalist marketing ploy that was, that's worked out very well for them. So you need to understand that there's this huge political movement involved in these things. Now, having said that, just give you a quick accounting, and in Bogota is where most of the violence took place. There were, last I knew, there were 4 people that were dead. 3 of them were police. The police have actually shown a lot of restraint all over the country. There's selective footage, showing, somebody getting beat with a club, but they're leaving out the Molotov cocktail, the rock that, hit the guy in the side of the head. You know how that stuff goes. And I'm not saying they're angels. People are people, and they're gonna react. But a lot of this is being staged. There was one video in Bogota of this, we'll say, a YouTube influencer. She's a very popular YouTuber down here, and she had her face covered up in a hat, and you only saw the eyes. You didn't know it was her. And she was in a building, and she was smashing glass, and it was a transportation thing, because it was a turnstile, and the glass thing that you swipe your card on, she's smashing that with a hammer. Then she jumps over the turnstile, goes outside, she's smashing these plate glass windows with a hammer. And the hat came off at some point, so you saw her hair, and then the mask came down a little, and so you could say, okay, I kind of recognize her. And then afterwards, she does a YouTube video live, staying there without her mask, talking, not trying to incriminate herself directly, but apparently she didn't realize that, this put together just incriminate her. She'll probably be in jail. But she was talking about, Viva la protest and like that. So there's quite a bit of stuff going on in Bogota, but what has come out of it is, and I saw this in the United States, the race riots back in the 60s in Rochester, New York. We also had a race riot. I actually drove in by accident and got caught in the middle of one, and it took a .45 caliber automatic to stop rocking the truck I was in and let me go. But what you see in a lot of these riots, like in Los Angeles, is it's an opportunity to score. You'll see, you have, the core of people that have legitimate concerns or complaints or whatever, but then you've got the people that, we can get out there and all it's all chaos, so I can go break into the store and grab myself a TV, or I can go get this camera I always wanted. And you see people running around. They're the ones that generally do the destruction. They smash out windows and they create chaos, and they grab a bunch of property. And you saw that going on in Bogota. And true or not, there was a fair amount of video clips showing Venezuelan flags or hats on these people, and they're saying, well, it's Venezuelans taking advantage and they don't care, and the people of Bogota don't want their property ruined, but these people are here, they don't care because this isn't their home. And so you're seeing some backlash. Some of that is true, but it's like everything else. It can blow. It doesn't mean all Venezuelans are doing this. You probably have, maybe 5%. A typical population, you're going to have 5% that are going to be criminals of some sort. It won't be any different if you're in another country. So you've got that thing going on where there's a feeling. I actually heard some people here in Armenia talking about how upset they were. We welcome you to our country and this is how you repay us. And that's not a very good, healthy thing going on, but that's something that is taking place in conversation. In Medellin, there's less violence going on. It's more of the protest that was designed. In Cali, one of the videos I watched, what's his name? I can't think of his name. I'm sorry. I know he watches mine sometimes too. I'm just drawing a blank on the name. But he went into one of the protests and showed it. It was pretty funny because they're doing all the protest things, and that's the one where the Che Guevara flag was flying. But you also saw all these girls out there. They were dancing. You see a lot of people laughing and carrying on, and so. But there was some things. There was some looting, and the looting thing is where most of this violence is coming in, and then people trying to protect their property, and then the police getting involved, and it's. I don't think it's really directly the protest. It's people taking advantage of the protest. Now here in Armenia, I mean, it's Armenia. Yeah, we had people walking the street, and last night there was a big one. But they were just walking along and singing and smiling, and there haven't really, outside of the the incident next door, there really hasn't been anything going on. It's protests here are really kind of excuses for partying, and because there isn't any big, overwhelming, pressing issue that's causing people to feel like they have to act immediately and forcefully. It's just kind of a general complaint of different things. So they're out and they want to be noticed, and a lot of college students, but you also saw families out because we're all in this together kind of feeling. I may not agree with you on this, but this might have a point, and so just in principle, you have that going on. There was quite a bit of activity right outside my building, because they were trying to keep Bolivar free for commercial enterprises, and so they were kind of detoured down past my building, and so there were police out at the intersections, and traffic was backed up because of that. And when the people finally came through, you could hear them for a while. It's zing, 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 noisemakers, or burp, burp, flutophones, and banging on a pot and like that, and you hear them go down through. Didn't hear a whole lot of chanting, but they kind of went down through, and I couldn't actually see them, but I knew from talking to the guard here, it was about 20 or 30 people. It wasn't this massive thing. Last night was probably the biggest. I bet you there was maybe a couple hundred people all told. Now, if you put it in that crowd that we had on Halloween, you might not even locate them, but it's pretty significant. But again, no violence. It doesn't really. It's not the nature of here. So it's not that Colombia is blowing up. You don't need to cancel trips or things like that. And where these are taking place, they're kind of like in certain areas. It's not like all over the place. And they're not targeting, gringos. It's nothing like that. It's what I've described for the most part, and there's more to it, but that's basically it in a nutshell. And I mean, you could fly into here to Armenia, and everything's pretty much the same. And over the years, I've seen lots of protests and lots of partying. Now, the day that the protests were scheduled, there were no liquor sales, no beer. That was it. But the protests went on. I mean, because they scheduled them coming into the weekend. So of course Saturday. I mean, are you kidding? It's an excuse to get out there, and the liquor sales were going. But it didn't seem like there were any repercussions from it here in Armenia. So all is well, not to fear. That's kind of what's going on. And if you're sitting in the United States, you're experiencing a lot of similar things there. So if you have questions, 4 question marks, ask me the question. I'm ready for it. I don't like to get political like I did, but if you're going to understand what's going on, I just didn't know if there was another way around it. Lost the Nomad, hello. Message retracted. I don't know if I lost. I'm not seeing any more comments. Are you still there? You never know with this thing. Let me see if I can take a moment here. Well, it looks like it's still streaming live, so maybe nobody's got any questions, nobody's got any comments. So with that, I guess I'll end today's. Oh, we are here. Lots of question marks. Okay, well, type up, speak up, because I don't want to have a lot of dead air. If there's no questions going on, then, just move along. Okay, I mentioned a few weeks ago flying from Armenia to Bogota for $20 or $30. The price varies, so it depends. It depends on when. Sometimes they have specials. The last time I looked, it was converted to dollars. It was $28. What it is today might be 40, might be 18. I think the lowest I'd ever heard of was about $18. So it's going to vary, but my point was it's pretty inexpensive. I heard that wealthy neighborhoods are being targeted in Cali. I actually haven't heard that, and just because I'm sitting here in Colombia, I'm not an expert on everything, things like this, but particularly because they're current and they're not near me. I did go on and I did search for videos of things, and I did talk to several people here, Colombians, asking, it's like, what have you heard? What's going on? What's it like? So that I could, and so I haven't heard that. Is it true? It could very well be true, and it could be targeted because that's where the good things are to steal. I don't know. So I don't know the story behind that. That would be my guess. Why was your video synced in the last video? I'm not sure I understand. If you mean the one I put out yesterday, it's because it wasn't live streamed. The syncing problem comes from this live streaming issue, particularly in the software that I can't resolve. And I think they charged me for another month, even though I canceled it. So that's why I'm using it today. It should have actually ended yesterday, but it's still, obviously, it's still going. But if you mean that, if I just upload a video that I make, it's always going to be synced. If I do a live video, I can use this software and have it desynced a little. For some, it's synced up, so I don't know what that's about. And that's part of the problem with trying to get support to fix it. They're not seeing it desynced, but some viewers are. They're telling me, and other viewers are telling me, no, it's synced up fine. So I don't understand it. But if I'm not using the software, then on YouTube I get constant disconnections. I get a lot of problems with the YouTube. Plus I can't show anything. I can't show any kind of clips or photos or anything like that. What is the airline? Beats me. What was it? I think it's Avianca. I mean, Avianca is Colombia's main airline, and I'm pretty sure it was Avianca here in Armenia. So take a look and see. or just put flights from Armenia to Colombia in Google, and it'll come up with whatever is available, and take a look that way. I will tell you that they're not the best in the world of having everything current, so you could look at something that's a price and then walk into the counter and find out it's something else. At least it's there to give you an idea, but you know, it's the best way is actually walk up to the counter and just get it. Top 3 websites for rent. olx.com.co, Facebook Marketplace, and third one, I don't know. If you look at Facebook Marketplace or OLX, you'll see some links from people that are advertising there that will also show you links other sites. On Facebook, there's some particular rental sites depending on what city you're in, you know, separate group pages. But start with Marketplace and work from there. Are airlines private? Yes, Colombia is a believer in, you know, private. They believe in competition, keeping prices down, not incurring public debt. You know, governments aren't in the airline business. I mean, you look in Ecuador, they've got a, you know, government owned and run airlines that's constantly in debt. They constantly have to prop it up. If it were privatized, they would operate much more efficiently and would pay for themselves. And that's just the way things are in life. So Avianca is a private company. Have I been to Parque del Cafe, the amusement park? I haven't been since I've been back this time. I've been several times in the past. I actually was planning to go this next week if the weather's good. I don't know if I can afford to. I wasn't expecting the camera stuff to come up. Contributions have been, you know, kind of down, which I expected going into Thanksgiving and Christmas. And so, you know, I had to get the stuff out of pocket, and that was what I had actually set aside for the coffee park. I wasn't so concerned because, as I mentioned yesterday, we are kind of in the heart of the rainy season. I don't really want to go and spend the time and money to get there and just be rained out. So, and I'll take somebody with me to go also. They're going to need to help me. So, yes, I've been there. It's very entertaining. I have fond memories of it. It's first class in my opinion, but I'm sure it's changed a lot over the last decade plus, and so I'm excited to look forward to it. Take a lady. Well, I don't know how much of a lady she is, but I'm definitely going to take a female with me. Maybe Miss Colombia from Armenia. Yeah, that's a ticket. Okay, any other questions before I end it for today? We'll do a countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 2.5. No, 1.5. Yeah. Okay. Oh, this is a good topic. Are smaller change coins bills plentiful, or is there a shortage? It's a good topic. I'm wondering, are you in Ecuador or been there? It's Ecuador that's a real issue. You know, it's like you better bring stuff, because when you go to a store, nobody's ever got change, and it seems like there's a shortage. It's crazy. It shouldn't be like that. Here, everybody's got change. I mean, I could probably count on a couple fingers the times I've I've run into where somebody didn't have the change. If you've got a 50 or under, if you're on the street and you're walking up to a street cart, you really want to have a 20, I don't mean in dollars, I mean 50,000 peso. But if you're on a street cart, you want to have like a 20,000 or a 10,000 peso. But everywhere else, you know, the standard denomination is 50,000. And it's not a problem. You go into the store and they're going to give you the change. Now, sometimes they're going to run a little low on change, and they'll ask you, do you have the change for this? Just like, you know, in Rochester, New York, they're going to do that. Sometimes they even have change jars where somebody will throw the change in the jar, you know, things like you've seen back home. That's in Colombia. It's all I can say is it's normal. It's really not a worry. I do go out with lower bills in my pocket because I never know when maybe I'm going to be thirsty and walk up to a cart and I want to get a fruit juice or a carbonated water or something. And so you know, so I make sure that I carry 2,000 pesos, 5,000 pesos, 10,000 pesos. 5 and 10 are kind of my favorites, but you know, you carry it out of courtesy, not because it's going to be an issue. I've never run into a taxi that didn't have the change. Of course, there's always going to be situations, so you know, carry some change. You're not going to bring it with you because it's pesos here, and you don't really want to use dollars. You're going to lose a lot of value doing that. Okay, what else? Glad you feel better. Have a great day. Thank you. I appreciate it. I feel much better. Okay. M. Carroll. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate the contribution very much. Okay, that looks like the end of the questions. Let me know what you think. Feel free to put comments after this is over. Send me an email. If you send me an email and I did not respond, please resend the email. I try to answer every single one. Every once in a while, for one reason or another, I find one that has been there for a while and I just didn't see it. Sometimes I just get a lot of them going on. I think I checked it, maybe I didn't, and then there's some on top. So I do answer every single email. So if there's one that I didn't answer that you had, I'm very sorry for that. Just send it again and I will respond to it. And yeah, that emoji is pretty cool. Okay. No bathroom trip today. I'm going to end the stream.